heat like Miami or a heat wave. Bounce back when they tell you no. Debate your greatness and flair and let them enjoy the show.
I'm always the first to step away when it's on or when it goes down. When it goes down, even though I have it in me to.
Alright, so there are a couple of things that we're going to be doing in this summary. First of all, we're going to be looking at what red team need to prove to you in order to win this debate. Secondly, we're going to be looking at what blue team tried to prove to you to show you that there are, in fact, some bad kids, or, as they kind of set the debate up, sometimes there are influences that parents just can't control. It's too tough for them to fight against. Here's the interesting thing. Let's start with blue team first, right? So what did they base their case around, right? We got one argument. Sometimes there are some influences that can override parental authority. Sometimes there are some influences that are so powerful, whether that's friends, whether that's an advert for a new Xbox game, whether that's the lyrics that come out from like Eminem, Ty, whoever, right? That is actually stronger than parental influence. But here's the thing. Here's where the argument falls. You can turn off the TV. An advert is pretty much irrelevant if you don't have the money to get whatever's in that advert. But you can't turn off your mum, even when you move out, right? So, God, I wish I could turn off my mum, right? One thing that mobile phone technology has brought us is the ability of your mum to surveil you and to monitor you pretty much constantly. She can tell if you're lying over the phone, right? Don't know how, it's a genetic ability that they can do that. So here's the interesting thing. You can't turn off that parent. That parent still has the closest relationship with that person that anybody can possibly have. Even if that parent works, there's still going to be the first person to see that kid in the morning, the last person to see that kid at night. They're still going to be the person the school contacts when something goes wrong. They're still going to be a significant source of authority. And the majority of parents, right, even if they're single parents, even if they're struggling, still have that wider network of contacts they can call on. Sometimes they've got grandparents, they've got friends, they've got members of their community. So parents still have more influence than an advert, right? So we don't think it's a case of negative conditioning being received by children. We don't think that an advert for an Xbox game can turn bad. Even if you really want that game, still have to be some sort of failure at some point for that line to be crossed, for that kid to be damaged, right? So let's move on to what Victor was talking about. Here's the really important thing, right? This is what we have to focus on. Because, just like Victor explained, the problem we have here is that a lot of you, and I'm part of this as well, right? There's Victor, so is this team, are operating on the assumption that children, in fact people in general, are a rational thing. That it's like a science experiment, that if you get the variables right, if you get the quantities just right, then you can always predict how that person will behave. And this is the problem. This is the problem with raising children, right? This is what you heard in the Flair round. That people are putting those seeds in the ground and they're not doing anything else. They expect that if you get those circumstances right, if you put the child into school, to make sure the child's at home, then everything will turn out right. But here's the problem. It doesn't work that way. Kids aren't like a mathematical equation. People aren't like a mathematical equation, right? We talk about that in Victor's speech when he discussed economic behaviour. We try and model the individual economic behaviour of lots and lots of people. We think that model's right and it can predict the future and it works. Just like a science experiment with simple chemicals, we're setting ourselves up for very big problems. Why?
1 minute to go.
Because people don't work like that. Exactly the same principle applies to kids. So when you say we can have the police and they can control discipline within a community, you should expect that to fail. Why? Because you're outsourcing all of that to an institution rather than that community themselves. You say it's sufficient for a kid to be in school and not to have that parent monitoring their behaviour constantly, you're setting yourself up to fail. Why? Because it's about establishing a relationship, continual monitoring, just like Victor said. This is the problem. People think part of an institutional process, rather than about taking control of community. The parent is always the person who has the most power over that child, right? Why? Because we still hold parents responsible when something goes wrong with that child. We can still prosecute parents for neglecting a child. So it's still the case that the parent is the most essential figure in that child's life. And one person who can act as a meaningful counterbalance and still acts as a meaningful counterbalance. Two things, like those adverts, like
Okay, just to clarify, we're not saying that the parents don't have any authority over their children, because they obviously do. And the parents are the foundation of their children's actions. So I think that's where we're getting a bit miscommunicated there. The parents do have authority over their children's lives. However, what our main debate is that when they exit their house, they have even more of an influence on their child's life. So it's alongside, not more. So I know that I can't remember what the name of the debater was, but he said that the parent has the most authority over the child's life. They might do, but then the people outside the child's life also has authority alongside. So it's not one or the other. Also, what we were talking about is community. They were talking about how the community might influence the child's life, but no man is an island. Even when you have your child, you might take your child to your sister's house, or you can take your child to your brother's house. They can also influence that child. So if they can influence that child, why is it that someone outside can't influence your child also? You have to think about that. It's not, you don't imprison your child once you have them. You don't say, sit down, listen to me, just because I have authority over you, you can't listen to anybody else. That's not how life works. Also, he was talking about how we can't mathematically calculate how a child will work. That is the same thing with a parent and a child. You can't say because a parent institutes a child to think in a certain way, automatically is calculated that they will act that way. It's the same thing. So there's no mathematical theory to how the child will act just because their parent is strong in their views, or just because their parent says they have to do a certain thing. I will go back to the example I gave about a child who's brought up in a Christian home and suddenly decides to become Muslim or wants to become atheist. There's no mathematical theory to this analogy. Also, alongside, we're talking, when the lady here, I can't remember her name, unfortunately, I'm really sorry, she asked me to give an example about a child that can act in a certain way even though their parents didn't bring them up in that way. I'm a law student, so I'm going to give you this case. It's the case of Venables and Thompson. I don't know if you heard about the case of Venables and Thompson. Venables and Thompson were two little children who left their mother, and they went to actually take the child and went to kill him on a railway. What happened with this case, when they looked around this case, was that these children were actually watching films that were very, very violent, and they were watching films that had, I think they were watching something like Chucky, something really, really gory, just before they performed this act. And that goes back to me talking about advertisements and television, and how that can actually influence you. So that could kind of rebut their point of, you know, the advertising and television does not have influence. It obviously does, and with this case it actually proves that. So again, I just want to emphasize that social influence and influence of the influences outside of the house are very, very influential to children. Thank you.
Yeah, Alex, first of all, second to see who I'm looking at. I really enjoyed listening to you. What struck me, again, very much like Victor, the clarity and how concise you were. And again, that edge of charisma that just makes you that much more enjoyable to listen to, making us laugh along with you, etc. I've written down in block capitals that you had very much, again like Victor, a sustained focus on your point. We were not confused for a split second on what stance you were taking and what question you were being asked in the debate, and you kept maintaining that as a thread. And just briefly, the conviction that you spoke with, you know, I think I quoted you, people don't work like that. You can't turn off that parent. It's that conviction and that confidence, which almost makes us feel, oh, we can't disagree with you because you're so sure. And that's what gives you that eloquence in terms of coming across. I found it hard to find an area for you to improve on. I think you've got a real skill there, and you clearly, I get the impression you've worked on that and built on that. Lots of parallels. Like Victor at the end, again, it felt a little bit rushed. You've got 10, 9, 8, and you're sort of trying to get your point in. I think maybe aim to finish definitely before the voice kicks in. But all in all, I thought it was a real team effort, the way you picked up on your Flair round, you picked up on the previous speakers, and you tied that in, and that's what a summary is all about, so well done. I wanted to commend you and congratulate you in the sense that you're doing a two-man job, really, to get up here again, and to pick up on the point that, Jazz asked you to come up with an example, and you did that, you thought about it, and you came back and you delivered that. So, well done in that respect. What I've written down, again, I like the points that you made. I like the way you were saying no man is an island, and you were speaking from the heart as well. One thing, in terms of the question, Jazz was picking up on a point of there being no bad children, and that we quite like to see you come up with there are bad children on the other side of the coin. I feel that you've actually stood up there. The last thing I'd want is for you to stand and say something that you didn't believe from your heart. So I actually like the way that you've taken the question and interpreted it and twisted it to suit your agenda and something that you feel passionate about. Very briefly, in terms of you studying law, I think that when you're standing up there, it would be a good idea for you to work on. I just get the impression Alex has maybe done this a little bit more often in terms of debating, the definite terminology, things like people don't work like that, and that confidence and conviction. I think with your tone of voice, especially if you're going to be a lawyer, work on that almost authoritative tone. If you watch an episode of Super Nanny, mummy says no, that kind of thing. Just so that you've got a little bit more confidence that comes across and more conviction with what you're saying. So I just wanted to get that across to you, but all in all, well done.
Thank you, Katie.
So I'll keep it brief. As Katie said, Alex and Sammy, both really, really well done. It was nice that you referred back, as Katie said, to your red team. It was well set up, it was well structured, great observations, because I think not only did you talk about what your teammate has said, but you also referred back like a great lawyer would in court to what the blue team had said, and I felt you'd really taken it in and were summarising very well. You convinced me, is the bottom line. You were very passionate, your engagement, your eye contact, and the fact that you referred back to specific points on both sides was great. Danny, once again, I think, as we said earlier, it's not black and white, but I feel that this motion was difficult because it wasn't no bad children, no bad parents. It should have probably been, because I felt the blue team was arguing instead of bad parent influences, it was bad society's influences. And if the motion had been about bad parents versus societies, I think you guys would have been very, very strong, but it's really hard because once again, I wanted to be convinced that children were bad. And to me, when I think about children being bad, I think children who are being a pain. And I once heard someone say that someone who is being a pain is carrying pain. And I think if your parents structure your life in such a strong way that they are there at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, the things that they've told you as a young child stay there. I think whatever society's influences are, you will come back to hearing your parents' voice in your head and therefore staying on that positive ground. So I think the motion was slightly confused, but I think you did a great job in trying to swing it back round.
Thank you, Jasmine. Apologies for the setting up, but this has to be done because it's quite a few things to set up. Clincher, please.
Yes, trying to keep it as brief as possible. I'll start off with Alex. Alex, I love the way that you literally bared reference to your teammates and what they were talking about in all of the individual rounds. You literally drew for certain references. You were very articulate. And you were very eloquent in your delivery as well, which was very good. It was clear, it was very precise in your points. You broke down the blue team. You literally, I like the way that you focused on what you wanted to talk about when you started off by pinpointing and breaking apart them, the opposition. I think that was really good. So you even said, I think there was a line where you said, well, what they're going to bring forward, do you know what I mean? And you literally deciphered them before they even stood up. So that was nice and that was very cheeky. I like that. Literally, you bear reference to the advert. And being able to switch off the advert on TV and whatnot. But you know, I just felt that as a kid, when you're watching TV and you know all your friends have got this toy, and you know, and you're watching and you're thinking, oh, do you know what? You can switch off the TV all you want, but you know that you're going to play out tomorrow and you're still going to see your friends with that toy that you want. So I just felt like you had to kind of take that into consideration a bit, that the social aspect of things do kind of, you know, there's a little bit of social impact there. Do you know what I mean? When you see your best friends playing with the toy that you know that your mum can't buy you because she's broke, you know, it's quite harsh. Literally, I like the point you made about you can't turn your parents off, because that's the truth. You know, you're born with your parents, they're there. I also wanted to touch on the point that you spend a lot of time, maybe like 6+ hours at school as well, and literally you only see your parents, if you break it down, technically you see them in the morning before your parents go to work themselves. You might see them for maybe an hour and a half before they leave out, then you go. So there's a lot of social influence that you have to kind of take into consideration there. I like the way that you talked about the fact that parents are always deemed responsible no matter what. Do you know what I mean? And that is a bit harsh, because even though if a parent is doing a good job and a kid runs out and starts doing something crazy, the first thing they're going to do is phone the parent and say, you know, your son's doing this. So literally, Danny, I felt that the social influence, you know, you could have reeled us in a bit more. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you made it strong. I like the example that you made with the Venables and Thompson. That was you there in reference to your lawyer skills. And obviously that was a big story, do you know what I mean? And when they found out that obviously Chucky and those kind of horror movies were at the basis of that and they were being influenced, that was like, wow, literally, so this is real. Kids can actually take this in and actually go out there and incorporate that in their everyday lifestyle and think, okay, cool, do you know what, it's alright to go and knife somebody and kill somebody because Chucky's doing it, you know? So that was good that you done that. I felt that it would have been good if you done that with the social influence as well, maybe like bringing one of your own cousins who have been, do you know what I mean, have gone through something to do with social influence as well. Like I said, you know, a kid watching TV and wanting it, but obviously you're not being able to because his mom can't afford it as well. I feel like it didn't flow as strongly as the red team. The red team, you know what I mean, literally Alex put it together and it was like there, it was there for me to read. If I wanted to like take it in print and read it, it would be so much clearer than yours. But you know what, you had passion, you both had passion. And I know the time's on me, so I'm going to hand it back to you, Isaac.
Thank you, pleasure. Obviously, the blue team are Dami and Darian. The red team are Femi, Victor and Alex. If you believe that either or has won for you tonight, please feel free to raise your cards up in the air. Yes, you are being filmed, it's for camera effect. Okay, so reds. Oh, okay, indecision. Hayes crew there. Cars red, okay, cool. Okay. And I'm going to introduce our next performer, Angela Ritchie. Please give her a warm round of applause. Thank you.
All around me is dark, and the moon
Thanks to Richie, that was very good. Very good. Please give a warm round of applause for all our performers today. They've all been exceptional. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome back the debaters and the guest judges, please, for the results. Yes. So we had 3 rounds of debates, well 4 if you count the rebuttal. We had 4 and against. There are no bad children, only bad parents. The judges obviously have scored up, and we are just calculating the scores. I think we do have a result. Once again, the winners get to enjoy a fabulous meal for 2 or 3 or 4, depending on your preference, at Tyne Lau Box Park. Our lovely sponsors, thank you very much, Tyne Lau. But before that, what I want to do is give a couple of you an opportunity just to maybe summarise how you felt the topics have gone today, or just offer an opinion. So any similar to what Tamo did earlier. Anyone want to?
There's a famous saying from my country: children learn what they live. And all of you here can identify with that, because what you live is what you can put forward. If you've never experienced it, there's no way you can bring it forward. So it could be from social media, it could be from TV, it could be from parents.
One of the things I wanted to say as well is, even though we're talking about influences, I think it's very important that we don't just blame the influences that is around us. I think we have to blame how we handle those influences, because we could be influenced by anything. But I know that I'm not going to go out there and rob a lady, because I've been brought up with morals that you can't do things like that.
There's almost a heredity sort of type nature to parenting, where bad parents sort of make bad children, who then become bad parents and go on to make bad children. So it's almost like a cycle. So you can't disconnect the social economic background they come from, nor can you negate the individual responsibility in that whether you're a child or an adult, individuals have to reconcile their actions, and so it's not as sort of clear cut as the question makes it. But again, in the actual debate, I'm with the red team. But with regards to sort of individuals, regardless of the type of parent that you are, you have to be able to understand the psychology of the individual you're dealing with, and also respect the fact that regardless of what you do, individuals make decisions and they reconcile that within themselves.
Thank you. Cheers, thanks, Right, so this is our lovely gold envelopes. They cost an arm and a leg. I'm going to open this. This has the results of our winning team. And once again, our winning team will get to enjoy it. So obviously, for the both of you, it'll be quite intimate. You guys will do your thing at Tyne Lau. And if it's the 3 of you, then I don't know. It's entirely up to you guys how you want to do it. Okay, this is interesting. So, the winning team for There Are No Bad Children, Only Bad Parents goes to the red team, by only 6 points. So please, a big round of applause. Well done, guys. Alex, Victor, Femi. Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you very much. That was
and bring the heat like Miami or a heat wave. Bounce back when they tell you no. Debate your greatness and flair and let them enjoy the show.
I'm always the first to step away when it's on or when it goes down.